first name. You're looking at Manitoba.
A very specific part of the world to look at.
It is. Now, usually moving to a rural community feels like this vague, abstract ambition. You hope there's a job, you hope it works out.
Yeah, it's a leap of faith.
But today, the abstraction is completely gone because as of right now, we aren't guessing what these towns need. We have the actual shopping list.
It really is a shopping list. And honestly, it's not a wish list. It's a demand sheet.
That is exactly what we're digging into today. We are doing a deep dive into the Rural Community Immigration Pilot, the RCIP, specifically looking at the 2026 data.
The fresh numbers.
Fresh numbers for 3 specific Manitoba heavyweights: Altona and Rhineland, Brandon and Steinbach. And looking at this data, it isn't just a basic list of job titles, is it?
No, and that's where people really get tripped up. They see a spreadsheet of codes and think, oh, I see my job title, I'm good.
Right.
But our mission today is to decode the fine print. Because the reality of 2026 is that these communities have become incredibly specific.
Highly targeted.
Very targeted. They aren't just asking for general workers. They're asking for very specific types of people to solve very specific bottlenecks in their local economies.
Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty of, who needs a butcher versus who needs a software project manager, and that distinction is actually critical. We'll get to that. Let's ground the listener.
Good again.
What is the RCIP actually trying to solve? Because this isn't your standard express entry federal program that everyone already knows about.
All right, so the RCIP launched back in 2025, and it runs through 2030. The federal government essentially admitted that the broad strokes immigration policy just wasn't working for rural Canada.
Because everyone goes to the big cities.
Exactly. Toronto and Vancouver get the people, while rural manufacturing hubs get massive labor shortages. So this pilot decentralizes the power.
It hands the keys to the towns.
It does. It gives these specific communities the authority to recommend people for permanent residence based on local needs, not some national average.
But there is a gatekeeper here, and this is the part that I think really confuses people who are used to the old points-based systems. You do not apply to the town directly to get started.
Correct. You cannot just email the mayor of Brandon and attach your resume.
Please don't do that.
Right, don't do that. The golden rule of the RCIP is that it is employer-led.
Employer-led.
The hierarchy of needs starts with a business. You need a valid job offer from a designated employer first. That triggers the community recommendation, which then allows you to apply to the IRCC for your permanent status.
So the flow is get the job, get the town's blessing, get the visa, in that specific order.
Precisely. If you don't have the job offer, the rest of this entire conversation is theoretical. It shifts the power dynamic significantly. You have to match with a business first.
Okay, let's get practical. We have 3 distinct flavors of rural economy here. Let's start with the first region, the town of Altona, and the surrounding rural municipality of Rhineland.
Okay.
When I look at their 2026 release, I see a region that is really doubling down on its industrial roots, but there's a new player on the field this year.
The shift is undeniable. For 2026, Altona has officially added a 6th priority sector, which is health.
That's a huge deviation from 2025.
It is. Previously, the priority sectors were the classics: manufacturing, agriculture, trade, sales, and education or social services.
The backbone stuff.
Right. By adding health, they're basically admitting that you can't sustain an industrial workforce if you don't have the infrastructure to keep them alive and healthy.
Wow, yeah.
It signals that the community is growing up, in a sense.
Let's look at their top 25 occupations list. I spent some time going through this, and it absolutely does not look like a generic government list. It feels incredibly niche.
Give me an example.
Well, for example, occupation number 2 is binding and finishing machine operators. That just jumps right out, doesn't it?
It does. It's incredibly specific.
Why on earth is a rural town prioritizing binding machines?
Because Altona is a massive printing hub. When you see binding machine operators sitting at number 2, that isn't a government bureaucrat guessing what the town needs.
Right.
That is a direct signal from a major employer, likely in the printing and publishing sector, saying, we have books to bind and literally nobody to run the machines.
It's a direct reflection of a bottleneck.
Exactly. It tells you there is a very specific industrial bottleneck they're trying to clear.
It's the exact same story with number 9, industrial butchers and meat cutters.
Again, playing to the region's strength. Altona and Rhineland have a massive agricultural processing base.
So this isn't your local deli butcher slicing up ham for a sandwich.
No, this is industrial-scale food security. If you have skills with a knife on a fast-paced industrial line, Altona is actively looking for you.
And then you have number 1, agricultural service contractors and farm supervisors.
That's the most interesting one to me, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because they aren't just asking for farm laborers. They're asking for supervisors. They need management layers in agriculture.
Ah, okay.
This tells us that the farms are getting bigger, they're getting more complex, and they need people who can run operations, not just drive a tractor.
But now, woven into this whole industrial tapestry, we see nurse aides, orderlies, and registered nurses.
That's that new health priority kicking in.
Yeah.
You have the welders and the printers building the economy, and now you have the nurses maintaining the population. It's a maturing economy.
Now, I read a note about the selection process for Altona that made me pause. It says recommendations are first come, first served. That sounds,
Urgent.
yeah, incredibly urgent.
It implies that the quota is limited and the demand is high. If you secure that job offer, you cannot sit on it. The community panel isn't waiting around to compare you against an applicant 3 months from now.
Right, they're not holding out for a better offer.
Exactly. If you fit the criteria and you have the job, they stamp it.
And what about wages? Did they give us a number for Altona?
Silence on that front. The 2026 release notes that specific wage requirements haven't been published yet for Altona.
Interesting.
That's a stark contrast to Brandon, which we'll get to, but for Altona, it means you really need to negotiate hard with the employer because there isn't a published floor yet regarding the program's specific rules.
Good tip. Let's move west to Manitoba's second largest city, Brandon. It's right on the Assiniboine River. If Altona is the industrial specialist, what is Brandon?
Brandon is the hub. It serves the entire southwestern corner of the province. Its list reflects a city that has to be everything to everyone: healthcare, education, manufacturing.
But like Altona, they've made a strategic pivot for 2026.
They have,
They've added natural resources and agriculture to their priority list.
which is fascinating for a city.
Why is that?
Usually, cities try to pivot away from ag towards tech or services. Brandon is realizing that its entire existence is tied to the surrounding farmland. They need to support the ag sector to keep the city economy flowing.
Now, this is where we really need to warn the listener about the fine print. I was looking at Brandon's occupation list, specifically entry number 11, early childhood educators and assistants.
Oh boy.
Right. If I'm a nanny with 5 years of experience, I look at that code and think, perfect, I'm in.
And you would likely be rejected
Why?
because you didn't read the footnote.
The famous footnotes.
This is where the deep dive value comes in.
Why?
The footnote for Brandon explicitly states that under that NOC code, they are only accepting child care assistant, ECE-THAV, and ECE-3.
What are those?
Those are specific provincial certification levels. A private nanny does not automatically hold an ECE-2 or D3 classification.
So the job title in the database is broad, but the actual hiring requirement from the town is incredibly narrow.
Exactly. They are looking to staff regulated daycare centers to support the workforce. They aren't looking for private in-home care. The nuance is regulatory, and if you miss it, you've wasted your application.
There is another mechanism in Brandon's rules that I find fascinating. It's almost a loophole, but a fully sanctioned one. They call it the Significant Benefit Clause. Can you break that down?
I love this clause because it admits that a spreadsheet simply cannot capture reality. Brandon lists its top 25 jobs. But they have a provision that says if an occupation is not on the list but falls within a priority sector.
Like health or manufacturing.
Right. And the employer can prove significant benefit, it can be approved.
Let's play that out with an example. Let's say I'm a dentist.
Okay, dentist isn't explicitly in the top 25 list of occupations. However, health is a priority sector.
Right.
So if a dental clinic in Brandon recruits a dentist, they can argue to the community panel, hey, we desperately need this person because without them, wait times for dental surgery go up by 3 months.
And the city can say, yes, that is a significant benefit, and approve them, even though dentist isn't numbers 1 through 25 on the spreadsheet.
Precisely. It turns a no into a maybe, provided the employer can make a strong business case. It rewards the employer's ability to advocate for you.
Now, unlike Altona, Brandon is very clear about money.
Rigid, actually.
Really?
Yeah. To qualify under the RCIP in Brandon, the job offer must feature a wage that meets or exceeds the Canada Job Bank's minimum wage for that specific NOC code.
So absolutely no undercutting the market.
No. They want to ensure newcomers are paid fairly according to the federal standard for that exact job. It protects the local labor market from wage suppression.
Looking at the rest of the Brandon list, what else pops out at you?
It's the mix of urban and rural needs. You've got industrial instrument technicians, very technical, likely for the big processing plants.
Yeah.
But you also have medical radiation technologists and dietitians.
And specialists in surgery.
Yes, that's a high-level medical role. It shows Brandon as a serious medical hub. But then, right next to it on the list, automotive service technicians and carpenters. It's a full-spectrum economy.
Okay, let's head to our third destination, Steinbach.
The automobile city.
As it's often known, yes, but it seems to be much more than that now. Fast-growing city in southeastern Manitoba. What is the headline here for 2026?
The headline is Decode the Code.
I like that.
Steinbach has also added natural resources and agriculture, joining the other two regions, but their list requires the most interpretation. There are traps in here.
I definitely fell into one of those traps when I first read it. Item 21 on their list, software engineers and designers. I read that and thought, wow, Steinbach is pivoting to be the Silicon Valley of the prairies.
It looks that way at first glance, right? But read the footnote.
The footnote says, under this NOC, specifically software and IT project managers are being sought.
That is a massive pivot.
Huge.
A software engineer writes code. A project manager manages timelines, budgets, and people. Those are often two completely different skill sets.
So if I'm a brilliant coder, but I've never managed a budget or a team in my life, I might technically fit the NOC code, but I don't fit the job.
You don't fit the intent. And in a highly competitive pilot, intent matters. They likely have businesses implementing large systems or ag tech integration, and they need managers to oversee the rollout, not necessarily developers building apps from scratch.
So if you apply as a pure dev, you're missing the target entirely.
Exactly.
There was another one that totally threw me. Item 12, heavy-duty equipment mechanics.
And the footnote there specifies agricultural equipment technicians.
So do not apply if you fix city buses.
Or mining equipment. They want people who can fix a combine harvester during harvest season when time is literally money. It's that agricultural thread running through everything again.
Steinbach also has some interesting outliers. Roofers and shinglers made the list. And professional occupations in advertising, marketing, and public relations.
That marketing one is key. When a rural town starts actively hiring marketing professionals, it means their local businesses are growing enough that they need to start selling themselves to the wider world. It's a sign of a maturing, exporting economy.
Okay, so we've toured the three regions, we've seen the lists. If you take a step back and look at Altona, Brandon, and Steinbach together, what are the broad patterns? What is the story of rural Manitoba in 2026?
The first story is definitely the ag surge. Natural resources and agriculture was a new addition or a reinforced priority for all three regions.
All three?
Yes. This signals a massive push in the rural food and resource supply chain. They aren't taking the farms for granted. They're actively recruiting to keep them running and expanding.
And the second story?
The health constant. Health is everywhere on these lists, from nurse aides in Altona to specialists in surgery in Brandon and pharmacists in Steinbach.
Which makes sense.
It does. These communities are aging or they are growing, and in both cases, you need healthcare infrastructure to support that. Trades and manufacturing. It's the absolute backbone. Welders, machinists, mechanics. It doesn't matter if it's 2026 or 2036. These towns will always need people who can build and fix things. That hasn't changed.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening to this. I'm a heavy-duty ag mechanic or a nurse or an IT project manager. I found the job on the priority list. I got the employer to offer me the job. I'm in, right?
Well, hold your horses. You're halfway there. We have to talk about the federal eligibility.
The reality check.
Right. Just because the town wants you doesn't mean the federal government will automatically give you the stamp. You still have to meet the baseline criteria for the RCIP.
Let's run through that checklist. First up, experience.
You need 1 year of related work experience in the last 3 years. That's defined as 1,560 hours. So you can't be fresh out of school with 0 days on the job. You need to have actually done the work.
Second on the checklist, education.
You need a Canadian credential, like a high school diploma or a degree. But obviously, many listeners are going to have degrees from their home countries.
So what do they do in that case?
You need an ECA, an Educational Credential Assessment. Basically, a designated organization reviews your foreign degree and issues a piece of paper that says, yes, this is equivalent to a Canadian bachelor's degree.
And without that?
Without that paper, your education points are 0.
Got it. Third requirement, language. This is always a big one, and it's full of government acronyms. We see TIER and CLB everywhere. Can we translate this into plain English?
Sure. The government groups jobs by complexity, which they call tier categories, TER.
Okay.
If you have a management or professional job, think engineer, dentist, or that IT project manager we talked about, that's tier 0 or 1.
Right.
You need a CLB 6 level in English or French. That means you are competent. You can easily handle complex conversations.
And for the trades?
If it's a technical or trade job, so tier 2 or 3, you need a CLB 5.
A bit lower.
Right. And if it's an entry-level job, tier 4 or 5, you only need a CLB 4.
So generally speaking, the more complex the job, the higher the language requirement.
Correct.
Yeah.
But even at CLB 4, you need basic communication skills. You have to be able to function safely in the workplace.
And finally, the money. Not the salary, but the settlement funds.
Right. You have to prove you can survive until that first paycheck clears and you get settled into the community. You need to show proof of funds.
What's the number?
It ranges from about $10,507 for a single person all the way up to roughly $27,806 for a family of 7.
That is a very specific number, $10,507.
Bureaucracy loves specific numbers.
Yeah.
But it's important. If you show up with $500 in your pocket, you will be rejected, even with a valid job offer.
Wow.
They need to know you aren't going to be destitute the moment you arrive in town.
So to recap everything, we have 3 regions, Altona and Rhineland, Brandon, and Steinbach. They have released hundreds of specific job opportunities across specific sectors.
They have?
The door is open, but you need the key, which is that job offer from a designated employer.
That's the perfect summary. It's a targeted, employer-driven system.
It's just fascinating to see how specific it is. It really feels like they're meticulously curating their future population.
That actually leads me to my final thought for the listener.
Let's hear it.
The program requires you to officially demonstrate an intent to reside in the community.
What does that really mean, though? Is it just checking a box on a form?
No, it's way more than that. These towns have been burned before by people who use them as a temporary stepping stone to get to Toronto or Vancouver.
Right. They get their PR and they leave.
Exactly. With these regions adding specific sectors like agriculture and health, they aren't just looking for workers to fill a shift. They are looking for neighbors. They're looking for people who fit the long-term puzzle of the town.
So when you apply, you really need to show you actually want to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, are you applying for a job or are you applying for a lifestyle? Because if you can show you truly understand the community, that you know it's a quiet rural life, that you genuinely want to put down roots, your application is going to be so much stronger.
That's a powerful distinction. It's not just about what you can do, it's about where you want to be.
Spot on.
Well, there you have it, the 2026 blueprint for Altona, Brandon, and Steinbach. If you are interested, the first step is checking those designated employer lists, which do update regularly, and seeing if your skills match their shopping lists.
And read the footnotes.
Always read the footnotes. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.